With this video, I'm finally setting myself free because I've been using Linux for 20 years, and for 20 years I've been enduring the prejudice. But no, I'm not talking about the prejudice from people outside the Linux world. Those are plenty, sure. I'm talking about the prejudice within the Linux community itself, about its untouchable myths, its taboos, its sacred cows. Yes, because there's a minority, loud, obnoxious, but loud, of Linux users who behave like fundamentalists, true keyboard ideologues. I compare them to the ones who burned witches in the 1600s, or the American Puritans who branded people with scarlet letters. People like that, history is full of them, in every field. And do you know what we call that? Ignorance. And the main trait of the ignorant is this: they think they know. They're convinced they hold the truth, the one true doctrine. So they feel entitled to attack, with all their frustrated rage, anyone who dares question their sacred beliefs. The irony? They often forget the true principles of open source. Because if they actually looked at them, really looked, those principles might put their comfortable wallets at risk. And just like that, poof, their ideology vanishes. Anyway, back to the point. I'm not a saint. I'm not better than anyone else. I'm not a professor. I'm just someone who's intellectually honest, with a critical mind, and above all, self-critical. And yes, that means I criticize my own community, the one I represent, the one I love. Linux is secure. It's become gospel, a mantra, a law written in stone. Oh yeah, Linux is safe. There are no viruses on Linux. With Linux, you're fine. False. Let me say it clearly, Linux is not secure. There's malware for Linux. There are exploits, vulnerabilities, active threats. I personally use ClamAviv, a well-known antivirus for Linux. And the moment I say that, the crowd shows up. You have to explain yourself. You don't understand how it works. You're fear-mongering. No, I don't have to explain anything. Anyone with basic OS knowledge knows that Linux is not inherently more secure than other systems. And even if it were, the difference is statistically insignificant. A 0.9% margin. A rounding error. I'll show some examples on screen so you can see for yourself. Linux is stable. Really? Try screen recording for an extended period on any distro and see what happens. Maybe I'm just unlucky, but I've seen crashes, freezes, visual glitches, plenty. And you know what? Many applications on Windows and Mac OS feel more polished. Yes, I said it. More polished. More professional. More reliable. But the most absurd thing is that I'm not even supposed to say these things, because my community has become blind, clinging to dogma, ready with pitchforks to burn me on the sacred penguin pyre. Linux is for everyone. Yes, in the mind of some Linux users, this OS is perfectly fit for the masses. A world where grandmas run Arch and toddlers are tweaking grub configs. A world where Linux has finally overthrown Windows and Mac OS to become the global OS king. The truth? Linux is not for everyone. Or at least, not yet. And maybe, just maybe, that's a good thing. Linux isn't ready for the mass market. Not all hardware works. Just ask NVIDIA. There's no centralized structure. No solid standard for consistent user experience. And Linux is not easy. To use it properly, you need a baseline of tech literacy. But here's the real kicker. The average Linux user doesn't look at the world. He looks at himself. He stares into the mirror and assumes everyone is like him. But he forgets that most people just want to turn on their PC, click the app, and use it, without ever, and I mean ever, opening the settings panel. Unimaginable for us? Maybe. But true. Linux, sorry, GNU Linux. The Wi-Fi doesn't work? Well, maybe it's your fault. How many times have we heard this one? It's a reflex at this point. You know those social outcasts sitting behind a screen repeating the same 10 canned phrases over and over? You find them everywhere, feeding on their own illusions with an arrogant smirk, convinced they're superior because they installed a Debian beta in 1994. Let me tell you something personal, because yes, this video is critical, but it's also a love letter. The person who introduced me to Linux back in 2000 was completely uneducated. He had 3 years of elementary school, then started working. He was an orphan. He built an empire from nothing. And maybe I've been imprinted by that figure. Because to me, the Linux user is like him. Humble, curious, sharp, modest, balanced, honest. Okay, maybe a bit obsessed with Slackware, but we forgive him. Today, sometimes I feel like I'm talking to automated bots, loaded with 50 phrases and zero self-awareness. cold, repetitive, interchangeable. Linux users have become boring. So have many Linux content creators. Too many. And maybe, yes, I'm boring too. Taking extremes and pushing them even further. And yes, we like to think we're outside the mainstream, outside the single-minded narrative of people who believe they're saving the world by driving electric cars, when in reality, those often produce more CO2 than regular ones. People who fight for the Amazon rainforest and then buy bottled water wrapped in plastic shipped from 5,000 kilometers away. Yet we're a perfect example of that same contradiction. We are incapable of reading problems and discussions in their full complexity. This video, just clickbait. Just someone who doesn't get it, trying to chase views. A pile of nonsense generated by ChatGPT. And yes, when it comes to serious, truly serious discussions, deep and clear-headed, I see very few. I see very little effort, passion, or honesty about what really matters, the actual principles of open source. Instead, you focus only on the splinters in other people's eyes, masters of nothing. Free, always free. That's just another reflection of the same mindset. It's as if everything created for Linux must come at no cost, offered up to everyone for free by default. So forget about charging for a program. Forget about a distro trying to earn something for the work it does. Maybe by building an ecosystem that actually rewards developers, a paid app center, an open source iTunes for software where the most talented creators could earn a little, be motivated to create more and better. No, none of that. Because they've taken the word free and twisted it into an untouchable sacred law. They've confused freedom with zero price and universal accessibility with economic suicide. They've mixed concepts that have nothing to do with each other. It's a bit like the radical chic California, where homelessness is the highest in the country, but it's nearly impossible to pass any law that would actually protect people without a home. Because our dear progressive friend with the $10 million villa surely doesn't want a public shelter or community housing on his street. That might lower his property value after all. But I still believe we are something more. Not because Linux powers 100% of supercomputers or 90% of servers. Yeah, I say those things too, but that's not what defines us. What we were, what we are, and what we could become has nothing to do with package managers or bootloaders. It's about our values, about a vision of technology, about the belief that tech should be a shared good, not a battlefield, a space for collaboration, not competition. From that, everything else follows. Respect for users, freedom of choice, the right to control one's own system, privacy. Because this is technology that sees us as people, not consumers, not products, not analytics, not ad revenue. And from those principles, the world has already changed because we, the Linux desktop crowd, we're just a niche of a niche. Linux isn't here. It's not in your laptop. It's not in your dual boot. Linux lives elsewhere. And thank God it does. So yeah, I finally said it. This is what I really think, my personal opinion as always, and I'm ready to hear yours.